Hello gamers, welcome back to HardStuck, and you're welcome here whether you're stuck in gold, silver, bronze, doesn't matter. We're all HardStuck here today. We're going to talk about some of the best to ever do it though and get into some professional esports as always. No controversies to cover today. We should probably be thankful for that, but there's a lot of good action that happened this past week and coming up into next weekend. Joining with me today is JDog, as I like to call him, aka MetaPusher. And of course, we've got Andy, Mr. Propercast, joined, and of course I am Eli the Ninja. So let's go ahead and jump into some action. We're actually going to start with Call of Duty. We had a hot action of qualifier matches leading up to the LAN, and some interesting stuff has happened. The seeding is all over the place, if you ask me, but one of the ones I want to focus on was the Boston Breach versus the Falcons. Now, Falcons kind of in an uptick. They've had one win against Optics so far, almost sealed the deal against Boston. Andy, what happened in this matchup?
I mean, the Boston Breach have been on an uphill trajectory as of late. I mean, and a lot of people are going to coin that as their strength of schedule. They beat Minnesota Rocker, or they lost to Minnesota Rocker, excuse me, in the map 5. They beat Gorilla Mates 3-1. They were able to beat Cloud9 New York 3-0. And then the matchup that we're talking about versus the Vegas Falcons 3-2. We'll put the asterisks on the side for the one versus the Toronto Ultra. That was the little bit of like the scandalous one with like some lag issues, but a win is a win nonetheless. They find themselves the number 2 seed following this entire series win. And I'm not gonna lie, ever since that initial win in Major 2 in Allen, Texas versus the LA Thieves in winners round 1, this team's been looking nuts, man. I mean, Cammy's in Cold War form, and for those back home, Cammy went through sensitivity training back in Cold War. He came back from sensitivity training. He was dropping bombshell performances. He's shooting laser beams out of his aims, and is setting up his team for success. Boston have been putting a lot of money and time into Snoopy, their star SMG player. And right now, I think that you could not have asked for them to look better. Besides that map 2, Rewind, Search, and Destroy, probably going to be a hard veto going forward. They didn't take a single round.
Yeah, the qualifiers definitely looked really solid for Breach. They are sharing that 4-1 slot with the other teams, but getting up in the 2 slot, drawing Optic in the first round of the upcoming major, I think is a really good position for them. They've looked really solid. I have some doubts about their ability to go very, very deep in this tournament, but I think they've got a really solid first round draw, so I'm expecting them to make it pretty easily into winners round 2, and then who knows? I think they're going to end up pretty solid throughout the end of this, and things have been on a big upswing for them, so if they can keep it going and do really well right here, they're setting themselves up really well for champs.
Yeah, Boston Breach securing the 2nd seed. That is no small feat indeed, but let's talk about Falcons on the other end. That's who Boston Breach defeated to get that 2nd spot. So let's talk about Falcons. They're going to start in the lower bracket. Andy, do you think they have any chance to get very far in this tournament?
You would certainly hope so if you were a fan of this entire team, right? I mean, like this entire organization is riding off of a top 3 performance at the worst. And the only way you're going to do that is through a lower bracket run. As we were already talking about with them only having a certain series win, they will be starting in that lower bracket, which sucks because this team does look a lot better. I mean, they went from winning no hard points to winning almost every single hard point. They took the hard point off of Atlanta FaZe, so you know that they are actually the real deal. The slang is a lot better. Their decision-making is looking a lot better. Statistically, they are worse at Search and Destroyed now comparatively to the full Saudi Arabian team. So you take that information for what it's worth, but I generally think they're going to show up to LAN and be gross, man. I think that RCD's, especially in that environment, he's a LAN animal. He will thrive. Pred, we saw what he's able to do when he's on LAN as well. That guy's a monster. And Xnid has never looked better as well. He finds himself next to an SMG duo that's able to keep up with his pace, probably since stage 1. And that's got to be so relieving for him to be able to feel.
Yeah, I like what Falcons has set up for at this LAN. They've got, like you said, Xnid, who's been looking really good. I do agree they're a little bit weaker on S&D as a whole from their previous roster, but they're still nothing to sneeze at. They're a pretty good S&D team. And I also think that a great thing for Xnid, a young, like, rising player like this, he's not just surrounded by 3 veteran players who are going to be playing with him. He's surrounded by 4 veteran players. They've also got Clayster coaching. This is someone with tons and tons of experience, can set him up well, very familiar with all of the situations. And they're waiting for the loser of that Breach versus Optic match that we talked about. So drawing a first round lower bracket matchup potentially against Optic, Pred getting the chance to knock Optic out of a major right after they drop him. The storylines are coming together in a really beautiful way.
Yeah, I was just thinking the exact same thing. I mean, Boston, with the way they're looking, I probably expect them to beat Optic. So there's a very high likelihood we see that Vegas Optic run back, which I think Optic are probably looking forward to. They want to get their revenge. And I feel like it's always hard to beat the same team twice, harder to beat them than it was the first time. So that should be very interesting should that align. But let's go ahead and shift gears, talk a little bit about Miami Heretics. They went into this weekend completely undefeated. However, they did end up losing to Toronto Ultra, which is something we kind of predicted. Toronto looking very good right now, but Miami still looking great. Andy, what do you have to say about this squad?
It's about time. I will say this, but I've personally been waiting for Super to play in the Call of Duty League for what feels like about 2-3 years in the Challengers Elite seasons, and he's alongside his long AR duo of Rancor, who has been the most consistent player for Miami Heretics since the start of the Black Ops 6 season. So for me, I think that it's finally rewarding for a lot of the fans for Miami to be able to see them in this limelight. Their best performance so far to date, and the reason why they're still top 8 in overall standings is because of the major in Madrid. I mean, home crowd cheese aside, like, they looked great in that environment. And now they're actually going to an event that they are personally hosting. And I think that the Florida fans, I have seen firsthand through all the transitions back with the Mutineers, through all their team changes, back now to where they are, they're going to be really happy to be able to see this team performing quite well. And I think that's super if he can translate his online performance to LAN, and that only heightens what Real is able to do on the map as well. This team will continue to be deadly. Yeah, they lost to Toronto Ultra. I rate them as a number 2 team Ultra on this current stage of the game. That is higher than LAT. There's a reason behind that. We don't need to go into that. But I think that Miami Heretics, within that environment, I mean, they beat Atlanta FaZe 3-1. They beat Optic Texas 3-1. They beat the Falcons. They lost both those hard points. But as I said, Falcons look good on hard point. They do look like a top 5 team at worst heading into this major.
Yeah, I think everything about the Heretics is all going to be about momentum, getting the ball rolling, coming into this like pseudo home major. I know I've talked with people, the Madrid, probably more of a home major for this team. But I think coming into this tournament in Miami, the fact that they started out really strong in the qualifiers, 4-1, the fans have something to hold on to. I think there could be something there for them to do if they start out round 1, look really good, maybe get some revenge over the Ultra and the crowd starts believing. I think the sky's the limit for this team. I mean, maybe the Thieves in round 2 would be a tough opponent, but Ultra are tough too. So if you beat Ultra in round 1, I could see the Thieves going down too. So
even online or LAN, like Toronto Ultra are going to be a tough opponent.
Yeah.
Like again, their last LAN matchup that they won was in the lower semifinals versus the Los Angeles Thieves. And that was like the first control loss that the Thieves actually lost, and gosh knows how long. And they absolutely thwacked them. Like Benjamin Beans on LAN is an absolute monster. But I will say this much as well, just to kind of wrap up the Miami Heretics conversation. All of the search and destroys that they've realistically played, I mean, they played like one Rewind. That's the new map. They won that 6-3. That was against Minnesota Rocker. But they've played the new dealership search and destroy 3 times. It went in round 11 all 3 times. Mm-hmm. If there's any team in the league right now that has time spent on the new dealership search and destroy, which is more often than not map 5, or could be map 7 if they make grand finals, it's going to be Miami Heretics. They are well versed in their map pool as well.
Yeah, it's something to be said to have any kind of tournament or competitive experience on the new map, and they probably have the most of it. So that's a great point you make. So, and one other thing about them, they dodged the number 1 seed curse, because actually losing to Toronto means that they will not come in as a number 1 seed. And so far, the 1 seed on LAN has been struggling. So hometown advantage, no number 1 seed curse. So sky's the limit for Miami. Should be exciting to watch. But just in general, were there any matches that you found, I guess, surprising over the weekend, Andy?
For me personally, no. Not at all. I mean, like the matchups kind of like stacked up the way we got. It's one of those things that you're almost expecting. Like people are kind of like striking Atlanta FaZe for being so weak at hardpoint. They're only playing Hacienda. That has historically been their worst hardpoint map. Teams right now at the top are going to be testing out their map pool, whether that's facing off against a bottom of the barrel team or not. They're trying to bolster their map pool so that way they can face Atlanta FaZe in a best of 7, because they do have the strongest map pool and they constantly belittle all of their opponents because of it. So I don't think that the results kind of jumped off the page for me. I think that was more surprising is the way that the seedings do kind of shake out with, you know, the LA Thieves getting that 1st seed, Boston Breach getting the 2nd seed. It's just all kinds of nuttiness going on with like the head-to-head, and not everybody's facing each other, so you had to kind of jurisdict all like the strength of schedule and stuff. It was weird, but I think everything kind of panned out the way I expected from a match result standpoint.
Same, I agree. The results pretty much standard as expected. Maybe some weird ones in the middle. I was pretty surprised to see Optic take the map win over FaZe in their series, and the Surge versus C9 match was also a little bit closer than expected. I expected Surge to run away with that, and when I tuned in and saw them at map 5, I was trying to do some mental gymnastics of like, how the heck did we get here?
Yeah, interestingly, Cloud9 got reverse swept in that series. So they started off 2-0 and then had a chance to defeat Vancouver Surge, who's kind of on the uptick right now. It feels like Surge, in my eyes, still probably top 3, top 4 at the very lowest. Still a super strong roster. But on that note, let's talk a little bit more about Cloud9, JDog.
Yeah.
I know that it's no secret this roster has been struggling. I think maybe surprisingly how much they're struggling. They end up ending this qualifier package as the 11th seed coming into the major. So what's going on with them? Why are they struggling so much?
I think it's a little bit of like just the team as a whole is kind of struggling. Sib has been putting up good numbers, but the other 3, Crimp and Attach and Mac, have really been just kind of floundering around the map and not really carrying their own weight. I like Attach a lot. He's someone who I have some nostalgia very much attached to in the CDL, playing with him, or not playing with him, just watching him play. So they're just struggling. This is not where I wanted C9 to end up coming into the major and leading into champs as well, with it kind of being a tight race down at the bottom. I think C9 has a lot of worries.
Look, you said it. Like Sib is the only player that's consistently performing on this team, and to say that is kind of like a really loose term, because that's the reason why most people pick Sib. Right? That's the same reason why he was picked for Atlanta FaZe Academy back in Modern Warfare for 2019. It's the same reason why he was picked for what was the Seattle Surge back when that team was still playing out of Seattle. But I digress. He's an absolute animal. I just think you need some consistent supporting staff around him. Like Mac could be that guy, but his lowest lows are absolute stinkers. I think that Kremp is a good player, but he needs another player that can play at his pace. It's kind of like the Exton story with like Kremp. It's like you get these bright moments out of Kyle, and then you expect for somebody to be there to trade him. And on LA Thieves last season, we were expecting that to almost be Afro. He got dropped. We were constantly trying to find that player, and it ended up being Ghosty. Right now it is Sib, but in the world that we do play for Black Ops 6, you don't really get that luxury for your ARs and SMGs to always be side by side with each other. So I think it's one of those things that this team does have the right pieces of the puzzle, but it's got to be something else that's going on behind the scenes, because there was a rumor going in towards Major 3 that they were not going to be playing with Attach. World champion, youngest world champion Attach, is being told that he might get benched for Capsule, who has been in and out of the league more than used laundry. Like, I don't know, man. Like, it's just, it really offsets the entirety of this team, because on paper, they are gross. In the reverse sweep, I'm willing to go ahead and chalk up. They probably should have lost that in map 4. Winning that map number 1 was kind of like a fever dream, but they did come off looking very, very strong, where Vancouver came off looking flat. I'm scared for Cloud9 not to make world champs, especially given the stature for that organization, formerly the New York Subliners. They've been in the grand finals for the champs the past 2 years.
Yeah, and C9's history and other esports has shown us that they're an organization that's quick to make changes. If things aren't working, they will throw the roster out and try and rebuild something new. And I think when you're seeing numbers like Sib is putting up, that's like a message being sent out to the fans, to the GM, to everybody, to the owner, to Jack. You know, I'm doing everything I can. Like,
He's fighting for his spot.
Yeah, give me some help, and I will take us. Don't know how high I'll take us, but I promise you not 11th. So I think that we'll see some changes happen if C9 doesn't really step up here at majors. But they do have a really tough draw waiting, potentially Surge FaZe. Is that who they got?
So Cloud9 will have to face Surge FaZe.
Yeah, the loser of Surge versus FaZe,
that sucks.
which is this a rough draw.
They're going to lose that series.
Yeah.
I mean, you might as well write it in. It's probably a top 12 finish for Cloud9. I think you're right. They probably do ultimately make some changes. And just thinking back to the Vancouver Surge series, I think the only reason they won the first 2 maps was because Neptune was kind of asleep at the wheel until game 3, round 2.
Correct.
So, I mean, like once he wakes up, that team had no chance. So, kind of difficult times for them. But yeah, ultimately at the end of all of these qualifying matches, we've got the round 1 matches set. So going into the tournament, which starts on Thursday, we're going to see all 4 of these round 1 matches. So we're actually going to go into a segment called Small Talk, where my 2 guests here will have just 10 seconds to give me the winner and why of each of these matchups. So let me make sure my timer is ready.
We're ready. Big analysis in a small amount of time.
Yes, 10 seconds to say who won or who's going to win and why.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to start with Andy. First match, LA Thieves versus Carolina Royal Ravens. Go.
LAT are going to win 3-0. Wrong place, wrong time for Dylan Rex.
Okay, only needed 3 seconds and 34 milliseconds to answer that one. All right, and JDog, go.
Carolina Royal Ravens are going to win because I'm going to be rooting for them, and that's all it takes. You've got a winner rooting for you. You're going to be a winner as well.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and reset that one.
Sound.
Sound logic to me. All right. Miami Heretics versus Toronto Ultra. Andy, go.
The Ultra are going to win this in a map 5. I think the Miami Heretics definitely come out the gate swinging. They're always round 1 demons, no matter the roster themselves. But I got faith in this Ultra roster. They are a top 3 team in the game.
9 seconds, 0.98. So you were perfectly on time. Love that. All right, JDog, go.
Miami is going to win. I promise I'm not going to pick the underdogs in every single one of these, but the home crowd is going to be ravenous. The players are going to be feeling the flow, and they're going to take the win.
Perfect. Okay, interesting take.
How long will mine? Let me know how my time too.
9.72.
Okay, that was better than his.
No, 9.98.
Oh,
he was
okay, you
right.
gotta get close
I
to
wasn't
10
even
seconds.
listening.
You can't get that
Yeah,
close.
you got to get close to 10
he
seconds.
said I wasn't listening.
I wasn't even listening.
Okay, my guests aren't even here. That's all good. All right,
Physically, I'm here.
next matchup. Boston Breach versus Optic Texas. Andy, go.
Optic Texas are the real deal, man. I think that Shotzi is going to come out of the gates and probably drop like a 1.3 on their foreheads.
Crazy take. Okay. JDog.
I'm going with Boston. I think Optic is struggling, and there's going to be too much pressure on them here. And I think that the big green team from up north is going to win.
Boston haven't faced any top
Okay.
teams, man. They're going to get smoked.
I'm not analyzing
All right,
with
all right,
facts,
shut up.
only
Small talk, small talk.
feelings.
Small talk. All right, too much.
We're small talking between the small talk.
Good comms.
All right, going into Vancouver Surge versus Atlanta FaZe. Andy, go.
Winners finals of Major 2. It went map 5, round 11. Grand finals was a 4-0. I got Atlanta FaZe. This is going map 5.
Okay, and JDog, go.
I'm also taking Atlanta FaZe. They should not be the 5 seed. They're the top dog, and they're going to win this whole tournament.
Okay, well, my opinion that was not asked for, I think Vancouver Surge get the upset in that series.
Would it be an
Ooh.
upset?
I don't, well, yeah, because,
Atlanta can't buy a hardpoint win right now, dog.
yeah, I mean, it's still considered an upset based on seeding, and they won the last, major. Actually, I don't know.
They have literally won everything besides minor 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, they started, what was it? They started seed number 6 in Major 1. They're starting seed number 6 for Major 3. They started seed number 2 for Major 2, 1 Major 2. So
They're looking good. It's going to be an interesting matchup. I feel like all of these are great matchups.
Yeah.
Honestly, like
Yes.
despite the cursed seeding, which is maybe having you scratch your heads, it resulted in some really banger matchups.
Agreed.
So this Thursday, make sure you guys are watching the Call of Duty League. And then obviously next week, we're going to talk about who won and see who won the little small talk duel here as well. So let's go ahead and wrap up Call of Duty and shift our focus on over to Valorant. The VCT Americas has been intense. We had a couple matches, really just 2 matches that were of consequence last weekend that finally led to the playoffs. We had to say goodbye to 2G Esports, Loud, Furia, and Leviathan. They were overall outclassed in their respective groups. So the most exciting of the week, though, was undoubtedly, in my opinion, NRG versus Leviathan. So NRG shocked a lot with this barn burner of a 2-0 win to advance into playoffs. Andy, how'd they pull it off?
I mean, it's mostly through the veto process, in my opinion. It's such a fragile thing, a veto process in a best of 3 for Valorant, because you only have so much room to wiggle on what your better map mode combinations are. You could end up talking for the compositional differences, but there weren't that much differences as far as what everybody was playing. Probably the biggest difference would be Mata. He was the more aggressor, and it felt like that NRG were just constantly enabling Mata, both on, the Icebox especially. The Reyna pick, in my opinion, was one of the most egregious decisions I've ever seen. But just think about this composition as a whole. You got Mata on Reyna. Ethan's playing KO, Sam's on a trademark Viper, Brock's on Gecko, and then you got Finesse on the KJ, which is a pretty big stable for Icebox. Pick a way to get back into the site. If you go back through that Icebox, everything was even. 6-6 half, and then we get over towards the different side now for NRG. Every single retake was poetic as hell. You had a flash from Gecko, you had a flash from Reyna, a KO knife for Info, and if you wanted to hold the flank, great, you're going to have Finesse there on the KJ. It was just such a sound logic from their picks that it felt like they could do no wrong. No map that was going to be played for NRG, they were going to lose.
Yeah, it was a close match, though. I'll be honest. I think Leviathan did a really solid job keeping it in there. I've been very critical on this show and other shows of the whole King and Demon 1 switching back and forth between Duelists and Smoke situation, but it did look very solid, I think, this time. Demon 1 looked really good on the brim in the beginning, kind of came up short, failed to clutch one late moment there in the match. But King looked really solid on the Neon. He was zooming around the map and just offing people, just taking heads off. Ultimately, like the NRG teamwork looked really good. I've been so impressed by Ethan these past couple of weeks. Like that guy is shooting some insane shots and just like putting up numbers even when his team is struggling. So seeing his team also step up to that level, give him that support, and then get the big win like that was really big for me and gave me a little bit confidence in NRG that I had pretty much none in before.
Yeah, I think Ethan and Mata really put on a show for us. Like you said, the Reyna pick, unexpected. I think the Gecko pick also pretty unexpected as well. But like you said, they made that composition work beautifully.
The Gecko and Icebox is such a problem, man.
Yeah, it was very fun to watch. But let's go ahead and jump into the next most consequential matchup. That was going to be Kru versus 100 Thieves. So winner of this had implications to see who was going to end up number 1 in that bracket and take that winner's round 2 position into the playoffs bracket, which is awesome. You just get to sit back and watch that first round and chill while you wait to see who your opponent is. But in this matchup, it was Kru that came out on top after kind of bouncing back after getting demolished by EG the weekend before, let's just be honest. But JDog, are Kru back on track?
I think Kru are back on track to where they were before. They looked really, really shaky the week before that, but Kesnet looked solid again. I think 100 Thieves gave him a solid shot. Asuna and Kesnet dueling back and forth on the duelist all match was super exciting to watch. Fracture and Icebox, they were very close. I have a little bit of doubts about Kru overall, partially. Maybe we'll talk about this later, I can't remember, but partially it's my love for MIBR, and I think that they've got a tough team potentially coming out of that matchup waiting for them. So things look good, but they still got to tighten up. If you have one of those performances like you had last week, it's going to be a quick exit.
And just as I was talking about the veto process in the last one and how graceful it was, 100 Thieves absolutely shot themselves in the foot with this one. You can't go in with a hard veto. They don't want to play Lotus, and that's fine, but then you best hope that the other maps in the map pool are so robustly strong that you can challenge everybody on it. And I think they took Kru for granted on that. You know, you go back to the loss versus EG, whether it's like the scandal aside or just like maybe they just wanted Evil Geniuses to be in playoffs. I don't think that's obviously it, but it's just that they came out looking flat. So yeah, I would feel confident, Busio always feels confident, on challenging them on any map that you see fit. But when you go over towards the Fracture, this is where you start to have a massive problem, right? I mean, even at the first half, but then you go in towards even the slightest bit of compositional change. You had Shy on the Vis versus Cryo on the Chamber. If you die as Chamber, that is so useless. The constant retakes and belittle from the Thorns out of the Vis is so annoying on Lotus. This was a compositional change, and whether 100 Thieves, knowing that they're going to playoffs or not, we're trying this to be a little bit different. They have showed this composition before. I think they're going to be going with a little bit of a difference going in towards the Fractured, and then the Icebox was up for map number 2. Basically what I'm saying, they put all of their cards in the basket to be up 1-1 to go into the split where they had the utmost favor for this best of 3 combination. But because they lost the Fracture, taking Kru for granted, again, shooting themselves in the foot, getting rid of Lotus, they ended up losing 0-2.
Excellent breakdowns all around from both of my fine gentlemen here. So it's going to be a really interesting match. So that means we got Call of Duty matches on Thursday and VCT matches on Thursday, so lots to watch. Let's talk about those round 1 matches that are going to be upcoming. I'll give each of you guys a chance to answer for each of the 2 matchups. Starting with you, Andy, MIBR versus 100 Thieves. You kind of alluded to who you think is going to come out on top. What do you think?
I got MIBR taking this one, man. I think that 100 Thieves are playing a little bit too one-dimensional, especially what we had versus Kru. Either they're going to have to go through an entire overhaul or something's going to have to change. But Ospas is on top for him. MIBR are 100% going to belittle 100 Thieves.
Yeah, Ospas looking absolutely incredible. In every match I've ever watched this guy, he's just
so good.
He might be the best player. I don't know. Hot take? Yeah. Maybe. Anyways.
Well, hot take.
But JDog, the other one that we see is Cloud9 versus Sentinels. How do you see that one playing out?
This one is a little bit hard for me to say. I've got Sentinels winning, but I have a lot of love for C9, and I think that they've been playing really well. So this could be a super close match. Oxy's been playing really good. I really think C9 has put together some really solid performances, even in the matches that they lose. So I've got Sentinel coming out on top, but they've got, the big dog, G2, waiting for them afterwards. I absurd in my mind that we're getting Sentinels and G2 in a semifinal like that, but it's going to make for some awesome potential Valorant.
Yeah, my prediction is perhaps MIBR and G2 in the final. So
same.
Yeah, we'll see how that.
MIBR G2 in the final.
Yep.
I think I don't know.
You just have MIBR beating Kru after Andy's prediction.
Yeah,
I got Sen beating Cloud9 personally.
Yes. And then Sen.
Do either of them beat G2?
No, but it'll be Sen G2 in the grand finals.
And then Kru versus MIBR topside semifinals. Who do you got?
Probably MIBR.
We didn't talk about this at all, by the way. So so we all three agree.
Yeah.
Potential final should be MIBR.
Winners finals.
Finals.
Yeah. Winners finals. Okay. I thought we were talking grand finals. Sorry, I'm
No.
I'd be down for the grand finals too, but winners finals seems a safe bet.
You got to remember here too is that top 3 do get to Masters Toronto. So, so it's just like you want to get like top 3 at the worst for either of these regions. It's just that Americas are in playoffs right now. I think Pacific are the only other ones in playoffs right now. So like that's like the immediate focus. I do have MIBR making it to Masters Toronto, but I do have them losing the Sentinels in the lower final.
Interesting.
Okay.
Spicy takes all around. Love to hear from these guys. But that's going to wrap up our VCT coverage for today. We're going to talk about some Counter-Strike. All of the players are currently down under in Melbourne. It's going to be, it's already well underway. A lot of these matches are happening at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Some of us are staying up to watch it because the action's insane. All eyes right now, I think, on MongolZ with the Falcons. This is the first time that we've seen after the blockbuster $2.5 million purchase of this player that we get to see them in action. So far, Falcons have 2-0'd Saw. They had the reverse sweep with the 10 rounds in a row against Na'Vi. Absolutely dominated in that map 3 as well. Their next opponent, Vitality. So I'll start with you,
Bounty.
I'll start with you, JDog. Yeah. We also have the bounty on the line. But how do you think this one plays out? Do the new Falcons roster, have they shown you enough that they can compete with the likes of Vitality?
No. I'm sorry. I actually really like this Falcons roster. I like MongolZ and Nico. I think that they have a very high potential, but I think Vitality is such by far and away the best team. I think this Falcons team, they're on level with Mouse now, but I think that level is still one clear step below Vitality. We saw Vitality in bad form still beat Mouse in the grand finals where they played them. So I think it would take a major upset, but who knows, man, that big bounty maybe will throw some extra motivation. Maybe will be a way for MongolZ to pay back his new org of being like, hey, I'm worth it. I'll get you some money right away, and then maybe win the whole thing and get them some more. So I don't think so. I think Vitality should handle this match very easily.
I think you're worried if you're Falcons, the fact that you had to win those 10 rounds in a row. I mean, keep in mind you on Mirage, like the way that it does pan out, yeah, defense is going to be pretty good, but we're talking about like the Falcons, right? Like the core of this team just won the previous major in Bucharest. So for PGL, excuse me. I think that you look at this as a litmus test to be able to see where they do stack up against other teams, other top teams as far as their map pools are concerned, but getting that close versus Mirage, let alone losing a map versus Na'Vi, I think you're having a little bit of an uh-oh moment. Regardless, like this matchup is just for seeding. It's going to be a really good test to be able to give them that VOD and they go back and learn from, because it's only been 1 week. Like it's not that much time that MongolZ's been on that team, and you got to see firsthand. You keep like the 10 rounds in a row. That's why you bought this kid to play for this team. Like he is very good, but you got to give it time.
Yeah, getting those like matches in like this against Na'Vi and now against Vitality early on in a roster's lifespan has got to have untold benefits.
Yeah.
You know, like compounding interest for your team.
This is a championship like weather team too. I mean, like being in that grand finals versus G2. Yeah, MongolZ was on the opposite side, but I think you're happy going in towards this. If you're able to take a map, fine. But I don't think that any one of us, including Falcons, expect them to beat Vitality right now.
Yeah, right now it's going to be tough. I will say, just to add to some of the brilliant stuff that you guys already said, is Nico himself looks even more comfortable with MongolZ. I mean, this is a dynamic duo. We saw Nico with one of the most disgusting aces I've ever seen, period, against Na'Vi in one of those rounds. Definitely make sure you guys go watch that. That clip was insane. They both were 11-1 at the same time in the last round. It's just like, it's poetic. It's exactly the word I was looking for. Thank you, Andy. That's why we're on this cast. But I guess bonus question. We hadn't included this, but once Kioske is on the roster, do you think that's what they need to defeat Vitality, or do you think they're still behind?
I think that's what they need to beat Spirit, but I don't think that's what they need to beat Vitality. Like it's like JDog said. I think that like they're getting closer to Mouse's level. I think maybe they could take a single map off of Vitality in a best of 5, not in a best of 3, perhaps, but I think that gets them ahead of Spirit once the full acquisition comes through and we get like the final form of the Falcons. Yes, maybe they could be a top 3.
Okay.
I think it'll be interesting because I think the team might have kind of a little bit of a downswing when they bring on Kiosuke eventually, like immediately. But then the high upside of adding on a young player, giving him that time to improve and to learn under the experience of Nico and also the experience of Modesty. You know, there's some experience there. Being a superstar player with all those expectations, you have like lessons and things that you can give to people who might be stepping into that position in the future. So
that's a great point. Yeah, maybe Modesty will help him out. Like, yeah, trust me, I know it's scary, but it's going to be all good. And I think they will end up an incredible team when all things said and done. They're already an incredible team right now. We'll have to see how they fare off against Vitality. However, let's shift gears and talk about Group A. So Falcons and Vitality are in Group B. On the other side of things, so far we've seen a nice performance from Mongols, kind of bouncing back. They had an early exit at Bucharest, but so far they have reverse swept a hot Complexity that just finished 4th in Bucharest, and then a 2-0 win in overtime versus FaZe. Andy, do you think that they can beat Mouse and come out on top in Group A?
Gosh, no. Absolutely no. No way in hell are the Mongols going to be able to beat Mouse. I mean, like, maybe they could take a map. Like, Mouse, you know, much to my preview of Call of Duty, might take this as an opportunity to, like, maybe play, like, a train or something, like, random like that they haven't really played. Or they could just go in here and just wipe the floor with Mongols, and then bing, bang, boom, they're able to get that first round bye. I don't know. I think that the Mongols beating FaZe, I'm not impressed. I'm a generational hater when it comes to that FaZe team right now. They need to make some changes. The reverse sweep versus Complexity, like, I'm willing to, like, throw them the bone. I do rate Complexity pretty high right now, so, like, I think that was a really early litmus test for the Mongols, but they definitely look better than what they did in PGL Bucharest, I'll tell you that much. But do they have what it takes to beat a top 2 team? A team that's actually taken Vitality to the distance? No.
Yeah, I have to agree with that analysis there. I was on Queued Up yesterday, and I had to defend the Mongols 3v1. There was a lot of FaZe supporters on the desk, but I held it strong for my brother, Michael Kepley, and the results were proven. But I do agree with Andy's point. That's just FaZe looking bad. I mean, there's no way around it. Like, Brokey is struggling. Like, I mean, the numbers that this guy's putting up, I've seen some crazy stats thrown around on social media about his stats against top 10 teams and just not even competitive. So they got to figure something out, unless they're forcing this guy to, you know, just go in and die every time. And someone's going to have to do that regardless of who it is. Then maybe you can keep him on. But Brokey is struggling, and I don't know who FaZe is going to beat with him still in the roster. They got to make some changes. So yeah, I like the Mongols. I like that they've made the run, but I do agree with Andy. They're still significantly below Mouse. On their best day and Mouse's worst day, I think it'll be a close match, but I don't think Mouse is slipping up right now. They've been in good form, and I think they're going to continue to play in good form.
They're well rested too, man. Yeah. Like let's not like you go back to like the thwacking versus GL. They lost the map versus Big, whatever. Like that's fine by me. Like you go back to that 2-0 versus Gamers Legion, they look well rested. They are like Xerxin looks composed.
Well, hot takes abound. However, I think one thing that FaZe can think about is there's a new free agent on the market. His name's Dexter. So not to throw Brokey completely under the bus, but I think Dexter made a good case for himself in the finals of PGL Bucharest. So what do you think, Andy? Do you think the team's a lot better with Dexter?
No, absolutely not.
It's not just a
it's not the change that they need. Okay. In my opinion, like, and you can maybe justify this as a hot take or not, like, the only reason why Kerrigan is still on that team is because of his IGL and his capability and his knowledge of playing the game through 2 decades almost. Like, he's about to reach, like, what if his, like, 20th major come this weekend here for this event. So, like, yeah, the guy's been around the block, but he ain't shooting his gun as straight as he was a couple years ago. So I think that's where we need to start digging into the pool. And Dexter, you had a great performance in the grand finals, but that is the only solid performance that Dexter has had on that roster, in my opinion. Like, he's had some other performances versus bottom barrel teams, but versus G2, that's his best he's looked versus any other top team.
I like that. I think there's something there to maybe we shift Kerrigan to a coach role and we just get Brokey completely out of the picture and then bring in.
We just get somebody like to lighten the mood for Brokey. You know, like I relate more to Call of Duty, but like it's the same thing with like Shotzzy, right? It's like Shotzi's a solid player, but he's also a vibey kind of guy. Like I don't know Brokey personally, but it could be the same thing.
Yes, good vibes can go a long way for some players. I think that's a really important thing to talk about in esports in general. You got to be having fun. It's video games after all, right? If you're not having fun, probably not going to play your best. So
that's all competition, not just video games.
That's true.
My mom said the same thing before my T-ball games.
Yeah. And how'd you do? Did you win?
No.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't have fun.
He cried afterwards, guys. We have it on tape. Anyway.
It's about the sentiment.
Well, great talks all around, guys. I guess the last thing we'll touch on with Call of Duty is taking a look at the bracket. So I think that we're all kind of on board that MongolZ and Vitality probably come out the #1 teams of each of these sides. But let's talk about potential underdogs. Who do you think is going to come out maybe in the 3rd place spot in each of these groups to make it to playoffs?
So for me, in Group A, I'm looking at Complexity, and in Group B, I'm looking at Na'Vi. I think those are probably two. Na'Vi seems to be an easy pick down there in Group B, but I like Complexity. I thought they have been looking good, and even in that loss to Mongols, there was moments of brilliance, and I got to root for at least an NA team in some way. So I think Complexity's got a pretty reasonable path out of this group. So
SMH biased.
Yep.
Anyways, Andy, what do you got?
I think it all just depends on how Liquid look versus MIBR. Like if Liquid come out flat versus MIBR, like then it absolutely will be Na'Vi. I do think that Na'Vi are probably the strongest in that lower bracket, but I do rate Liquid pretty decently. If I'm a betting man, I'm just gonna agree with JDog. Like I've already exposed myself. Like I'm a Complexity super fan. Like I do really appreciate watching this Complexity roster. I mean, whether there was like a freak invite or not, they are really inviting to watch, not only as an NA bias, but also just as an overall Counter-Strike fan. I think that they could probably beat FaZe, probably not 3D Max though. I will say that much. So you're kind of becoming a FaZe super fan if you are Complexity to be able to get that 3rd place spot. But I think my final answer, 3D Max gets that 3rd place position out of Group A. Na'Vi get that position out of Group B.
Okay.
And I give a random shout out to FlyQuest, the Aussies. Who knows what could happen if Destiny throws something their way and they just start playing amazingly.
Starts raining kangaroos just come like shotting across like the studio. Yeah.
Hey, we'll get rid of some Transformers and stuff, man. Home crowd, anything could happen.
Shout out the Halo reference. Unfortunately, at the Optic Major, Optic down 0-2 and the lights went out. That's kind of strange, isn't it? But yeah, maybe something similar will happen for the FlyQuest on home court advantage. They are the least jet lagged team in theory, so maybe that's just one of their things. But I thought for a second we were going to have the first time we all agree until you said 3D Max. If you said Na'Vi, then we would actually all be on the same page for the first time in history.
Yeah, the problem with that though is that we almost guarantee that Na'Vi doesn't make it out when that happens.
That's true. We can't jinx them like that. So trying to put the right energy out in the universe for you, Na'Vi. Make sure you guys make it through. But I'm excited. There's a lot of insane matches coming up. I think that's going to do it for today's show, though. Make sure you guys are glued to your screens. I mean, we got Thursday is when VCT and CDL kick off. I believe the Australian schedule is happening just about every day. It's kind of hard to keep up with, but you can always watch the rebroad.
Every night.
But yeah, make sure you guys are watching it. We're going to talk about who won and what happens in the next episode. But until then, thanks for tuning in. You guys enjoy the rest of your day.